Take strawberries, for example. You know what's frustrating about out of season? Strawberries from the supermarket. They look great but taste like cardboard. Because they've traveled 5,000 kilometers in a pump full of preservatives. Dyson. You know, the vacuum company. Decided enough is enough. They've built a greenhouse the size of 20 football fields, where strawberries grow year-round and taste like fresh summer berries from a garden. And here's where it gets interesting. The greenhouse is heated by cow manure. More precisely, it runs on biogas, produced through anaerobic digestion of agricultural waste from nearby farms. In this process, bacteria break down the manure without oxygen, generating methane, which is then burned in turbines to produce both electricity and heat. The leftover material, called digestate, is used as fertilizer. It's a perfect closed cycle. Zero waste, zero emissions. Now here are some numbers that will make you dizzy. 10 hectares of greenhouses, 1,456 strawberry rows, and 1.2 million plants. Each year, they produce 1,250 tons of berries, which is about 50 truckloads. The temperature is controlled by a computer to within 1/10 of a degree. Rainwater from the roof is collected in a reservoir and used for irrigation. Even the beds sway back and forth during the day to expose the plants to more light, boosting yields by 15%. Already in 2025, Brits were able to enjoy local strawberries in January. And experts are also working on robot harvesters and lead-letting to grow fruit, even during polar nights. The future of agriculture isn't endless fields, but smart food factories. But high-tech greenhouses are just one half of the agricultural revolution. Wait, don't skip this part. Yes, we're going to talk about fertilizer, but it's actually fascinating. Do you know where food for half of the planet comes from? Nitrogen-based fertilizers. And you know how they're made? By burning massive amounts of gas. At 500 degrees Celsius, fertilizer production consumes 2% of the world's total energy. But to companies Pivot Bio and Green Lightning want to change the system. Pivot Bio took the biohacker route. They found bacteria that can turn nitrogen from the air into nutrients for plants. The problem is that in nature, these microbes are lazy and inefficient, but experts found a solution: reprogramming their genetic code. Now, these hard-working microbes live on the roots of corn and pump nitrogen around the clock. No fertilizer runoff into rivers, no dead zones in the ocean and crop. Fields go up by 14% with zero synthetic fertilizer. Green Lightning took more of a Tesla approach. They created lightning inside a sealed chamber. Electric discharge charges splits nitrogen molecules in the air, like during a thunderstorm. The result is liquid fertilizer, produced right on the farm. Picture this: a garage-sized machine in the farmer's yard. I'm making fertilizer from nothing but air and water. No middleman and no chemicals. Both technologies are already being used on thousands of farms across the US. By 2030, they could replace 1/3 of all synthetic fertilizers. This isn't just a new product, but a breakthrough as important as the tractor. And these revolutions aren't just happening in the field, but in how we get from point A to B. Speaking of breakthroughs, remember when Elon Musk promised plane-speed trains? Back in 2013, everyone thought it was just another pipe dream. Fast forward to 2019, and a group of students in Munich got a test capsule up to 463 kilometers per hour. Virgin Hyperloop has already carried passengers, granted at own 172 kilometers per hour, but that's just the beginning. The idea is surprisingly simple. Take a giant shoe, pump out nearly all the air until it's down to 1/1000th of the normal atmospheric pressure and launch a capsule inside it on a magnetic cushion. With no real friction and no air resistance, the capsule floats and glides. The result, a theoretical top speed of 12 kilometers per hour. That's Los Angeles to San Francisco in half an hour. Of course, the devil's in the details. How do you maintain a vacuum over hundreds of kilometers? How do you handle turns at that speed? What's the emergency plan if something goes wrong mid-route? Engineers are pondering those questions, and they're making real progress. Heart Hyperloop has already demonstrated a track switching system with no moving parts. The pod itself chooses the direction, using a magnetic field. Critics might say too expensive, too dangerous, never gonna happen. But you know what people said about the first airplanes? The exact same thing. The European Commission has already published technical standards for Hyperloop systems. The first commercial lines are expected by 2030. Do you think at least one will be up and running by then? And while Hyperloop is still battling doubt here on the ground up in the skies, there are already technologies flying that have left skeptics speechless. Have you ever heard a sonic boom from a supersonic jet? It sounds like a giant clapping his hands right above your house. Windows rattle, dogs howl, and people look up in panic. That's why the Concorde only reached supersonic speeds over the ocean, but Lockheed Martin said, "Hold my beer," and set out to build a jet that's, even at supersonic speed, would sound more like a car door closing. The result is the X-59. It's 33 meters long and looks like a needle. The nose alone makes up a third of the fuselage. Why to spread out the shockwave? Instead of a single loud boom, the shape creates a series of smaller, softer waves. The engine is mounted on top. The air intake is built into the fuselage, and the wings entail a position to cancel out the pressure waves. As a result, it produces just 75 decibels, compared to the Concorde's 110. That's the difference between a gunshot and a conversation. But here's the crazy part. The pilot can't see where they're going. The massive nose blocks the view entirely. Instead of a windshield, the cockpit uses a 4000 camera and a screen. It's like flying in a flight simulator, except you're 16 kilometers up in the air, moving at 15 kilometers per hour. The first test flight is scheduled for 2025. The plan's pretty bold. Fly over US cities, monitor public reactions, and prove to regulators that supersonic flight can be quiet. If they pull it off by 2035, we could be flying from New York to London in 3 hours and the people below won't hear a thing. But while we're getting ready to fly, fast and silent through the atmosphere, some are looking even farther into deep space. And pretty soon in 2026, a mission is set to launch from the spaceport in French Guiana, one that might answer humanity's biggest question. Are we alone in the universe? Plato is a huge space telescope, equipped with 26 cameras, reaching a resolution of 81 megapixels each. Together they create a 2 billion pixel image, which is actually a record for space missions. How do scientists find planets around distant stars? It's brilliantly simple. They check if the star flickers when a planet passes in front of a star. Its brightness drops by fractions of 1%. Plato will stare at 200,000 stars at once, taking a photo every 25 seconds for 2 years straight. It's like filming a time lapse of the entire sky. But here's the mind blow. In parts, Pluto won't just spot planets. It'll find planets in the habitable zone. Not too hot, not too cold, just right for liquid water. Even more impressive, it will measure their size with a 3% accuracy, and their mass within a 10%, and even their age. We'll find out if they have continents, oceans, maybe even signs of life in their atmospheres. Early missions found thousands of exoplanets, but most of them were hot Jupiters orbiting red dwarfs. Plato is focused on sunlight, stars, and rocky Earth-like planets. If there's intelligent life anywhere within 1,000 light years, we'll find it, or finally realize just how unique we really are. Still, before we go looking for life out there, we should probably clean up our own orbit. Do you know what's flying around Earth right now? 130 million pieces of space junk. From spent rocket stages to lost bolts. Each one is a potential bullet, traveling at 28,000 kilometers per hour. A single screw can turn a billion-dollar satellite into a heap of scrap metal. But the company Cal Morris asked, what if we built a space cleaning robot with the capabilities of a gecko? Reach is a robotic arm that uses gecko feet technology to grab objects in space. No magnets, no harpoons, no nets, just microscopic hairs that stick to any surface. Thanks to the van der Waals forces. Press down and it holds, let go and it will leave. No 3 tries. In November 2020, Reach was sent to the ISS. Astronauts including Sunita Williams and Don Pettit ran 170 to capture cycles with different objects. The result, 100% success. The test video became the most viewed post on the ISS's Instagram. With 23 million views, people were stunned. A gecko robot catching floating objects in zero gravity. Like can. But this isn't just a cool gadget. Reach can remove dangerous debris from orbit, move satellites into new positions, and even repair spacecraft. Cal Morris became the first private company to successfully capture an object in space. Thanks to them, our orbit is getting cleaner. And we're one step closer to the trash collecting spacecraft of science fiction. So that's it. 12 technologies that are already changing the world. From holographic video calls to space gecko robots. From prosthetics that can feel to AI that designs medicine 10 years ago. Each of these sounded impossible. What do they have in common? They were created by people who didn't believe in the word impossible. People who looked at a problem and said, what if the world is changing faster than ever? Today's breakthroughs will be tomorrow's everyday life. And the best part is that the next great idea could come from anyone, maybe even you. So next time someone says that's science fiction, remember this video: the future isn't waiting. It's already happening. See you in the future. Or maybe we're already in it.